What's up, Marissa? Good morning. Great to see you. Matt Ron, good morning. All right, guys. Another guest speaker week, and this is another tactical call. Remember, the calls that I typically like to run, it's kind of digging in and catching up with you guys. What are you working on? How can us as a community help? Some personal performance topics we could talk about. But with these guest speaker calls, that's where I want to get tactical with things that can truly help your business right now. And with this call, the one thing that I want to just give to you guys as far as a tactic is take this recording, and if you have somebody who does your marketing for your company or your email marketing or whatever, maybe it's an assistant, maybe it's your husband, maybe it's your wife, maybe it's you. Obviously, want you guys to always rewatch this and execute it. But a lot of this call is going to be talking about branding and specifically email marketing. And a lot of people don't understand the power of the right email content and how it can really level up your business with just the click of a button. And we have an expert, Danielle Cevallos, who is in another entrepreneurial community that I'm in. She's always posting really valuable content and other strategy that we talk about if people follow you. If they follow you, is your content so educational and so informative that they feel obligated that like, man, I got to use this person. This person is the authority in this space. And Danielle is a president of two eight-figure companies that she helped build with her branding and marketing strategies. And she now also is a consultant and helps 7 to 8-figure companies grow and scale with her knowledge and expertise. So this is going to be, again, a great call for you guys to learn a lot, most importantly. But as always, don't be an overwhelm. Take one or two things that you want to implement. Rewatch it again and again, because nothing's worse than sitting on these calls. Man, this is working. And then a month later, your business is still where it is because you're not executing the stuff that, are being taught that truly can help scale your business. So, Danielle, thank you so much. Danielle, you're out of Texas, correct?
South Carolina.
Oh, South Carolina. Sorry, I know you mentioned a few different places. New York, South Carolina.
Yes, I grew up in New York, lived in Nashville, lived in Bangkok. Now I'm in South Carolina.
That's right. All right. So, sorry, I completely missed all 5 of them with Texas.
It's okay. It's okay. Never Texas. I never lived in Texas. But yeah, thanks for having me. And my goal is to help you revive your email marketing. I do work with multiple 7 and 8-figure entrepreneurs in a variety of industries. And one thing I always hear is email doesn't work. And I'm like, really? Because we make lots of money from our email. So I always say, in terms of marketing, most strategies do work. There's a few that are stupid, but most strategies do work. It's just people don't implement them well. They don't implement them effectively. They don't execute consistently, and so they don't get a result. So I'm hopeful that after today, I'm going to reframe everything you think about email marketing and brand building online, and that you guys are in one email a week going to be able to bring in new clients. So a little background on me and why not like big, I'm not going to tell you from like when I was 2, but I'm coming to you with the perspective of someone who started out as a copywriter. So I taught for 12 years, left education, started a business, and now we do bigger scale marketing, social media, PR, podcasting. But I initially started just solely as a copywriter, and people would pay me to write launch emails, sales pages, social media content that they would then take and post and do their stuff with. So what I'm teaching you is not just, oh, this worked for me and my company. This is what we've seen work across industries. And we've got everything from lawyers to real estate investors to every kind of coach on the planet. So when you apply these principles, it really can work for any type of industry, any type of business. Again, you're going to have to tweak it to make sense for your audience, but just know that this is not from like one little mini perspective of one part of the world. This is from a larger view of lots of businesses and entrepreneurs. So I'm going to dive in. I have slides, but I always get so slowed down by my slides. So if you guys are okay, I'm going to just skip the slides and just talk to you. So
real quick, I just want to stop you.
Yeah.
Can you explain, just if somebody has no idea what copywriting is, right? Just briefly, can you explain what exactly copywriting is and how
Yeah.
it's what makes it different than just writing out an email or a caption?
Yeah, so I actually studied conversion copy. So that basically means there's a type of writing, people call it direct marketing. It's called a lot of different things, but basically there's a science and psychology behind writing to persuade and writing to get people to take action. And so when you think about a sales page, like if you've bought a course or you've gone to an event, they usually have a page, and that's designed very intentionally with a certain psychology in mind. When you get sales emails from like a store that you love or someone you follow, and they're actually selling a program or they're launching a course, you're going to get a very specific type of email that is leveraging the psychology behind what converts. So that's what I did. I wrote for like thousands of hours probably, because I did so many different things. And so a lot of this is tested again in different industries, different size lists. How many of you right now have an email list? Okay. How big is your email list?
Mine is like 2,300. You can put it in the chat too, guys.
Yeah, put in the chat how big your email list is. 4K. Okay, good. Who else? Who else? What are you, 3,500? Okay, these are like good. Oh, Patrice. All right. 2,050K. All right. I love a 50K email list. Okay. Jim's 2,100. Okay, so some of this is like people who are already clients, and then some are not. Okay, so how many of you are sending out something very intentionally crafted every week that no one can get anywhere else? Like something that people are like, oh my gosh, I can't wait. Not doing it. Okay. Yes, with a list of 50,000, Patrice, you do need to be doing it. Nope, every other week. Now, how many of you can think of at least one person or one company or one business where you do open their emails? Because everyone's gonna be like, no one opens emails. That's not true. There's probably like 3 people whose emails I open. How many of you can think of at least one person or company where you open and read an email? That's not like your friend or your mom.
I'd say perfect example, and him, Danielle, Andy Frisella. He literally sends out an email every single day almost. And I open it every single day because it's valuable content.
Yep. And here's what I want everybody's mind to shift out of. Email marketing has always been taught as annoying, slimy, tactical, and ridiculous, which we all hate. All of us hate to get those emails that are not personal, not intentional. You know, they clog up your email inbox where you get 27 of them in a week and you're like, oh my gosh, how did I even get on this list? So that's typical. What I want everybody here to think about is when someone's on your email list, they have intentionally opted in for your brand, and you have the opportunity to ruin that, or you have the opportunity to actually nurture that into a place where they would potentially buy. Because they saw something at some point. Maybe you had a lead magnet, maybe you had a coupon code, maybe they were interested in getting a quote from your company, and they took action and gave you valuable information. Most people treat that valuable information like just throw it in the box, don't really worry about it. I'm going to send them what I want to send them. What I want you to think about is, how do I become the most valuable person in the inbox so that whatever I send, they open? And I'm going to send so much value, so much nurture, so much, I'm going to build so much reciprocity with them that when I do make a straight, direct ask, that they have no problem because I've given so much. Now, we do that somewhat, we think that way on social media, or hopefully we think that way on social media. If anyone's ever followed Gary Vee, he's got a book called Jab, 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 Right Hook. Alex Hormozi just did this in his thing. The principle is the same. You give, you give, you give. And then the more you give, then you can ask, right? And if you give a lot, you can make a bigger ask. And so no one really gets mad when somebody's given for years and then says, hey, go buy my thing. What frustrates us is that I give you my email address because I want this free resource. Then you just pound me every day with buy my thing, buy my thing, buy my thing, buy my thing. And then we unsubscribe, then we stay on the list and don't open the email. And so if you can commit to creating one super high value email every week that is novel, so it's not someplace they can get anywhere else, and you can make it so valuable that they actually will open it and they will actually read it, then guess what? You can send your sales emails and people will buy directly from them because they are used to receiving value from you. So I'm going to kind of walk through a process, but I want to give you some overall just things to keep in mind when you're sending out emails. Number one, you want to make sure that when you're building your email list, so however you're getting people onto your list, that you're not then switching it up on them. So let's say you have, like we have for our agency, I have something called the content launch formula. And it's basically like how to launch something new with just social media posting. It's a PDF. It walks you through, it's like 4 pages. If I all of a sudden, so if you opt in for that, and then I all of a sudden start talking about investing, my list is going to die because you did not come to my list for investing. You came to my list because of content and marketing and personal branding. That's kind of how I've advertised that. So when you're building your list, you need to think about, why is this person opting in? Now, the more sophisticated you are, you can obviously segment your list. If let's say I wanted to start talking about investing, I don't, but let's say I did, I could do a lead magnet that talked about investing and create a segment of my list that only got investing information. And that's fine. But you just want to remember that whatever they come to you for, you need to honor that, because that's what makes people so ticked off is, hey, I signed up for this thing and now you're over here telling me this has nothing to do with anything I signed up for. So number one, when you're building your list, think about what you're bringing people in for and honor that in the content you send them. Number two, the biggest mistake I see so many people make is they literally just regurgitate their content from other places in their email. If I follow you on social media, well, actually, if I opted into your email list, the chances of me following you on social, it's pretty high. Like, I'm sure that I had to find that opt-in somewhere, right? Like I didn't just magically end up in your inbox unless you did some illegal stuff. So if I'm on your list, I found you somewhere, maybe it was a podcast, maybe it was social media, maybe it was, a YouTube video, but I found you somewhere. If all you do is take your social media content and put it in your email, why would I open your email? The other thing people do, they have a podcast, right? They want people to listen to their podcast. So what do they use their email list for? They take their podcast and say, today on the show, here's what we have. Well, guess what? If I listen to your podcast, I'm already subscribed in the app. I don't need your email. And when I get ready to listen to podcasts, it's going to pop up as a new episode and I'm going to listen to it. Now, I'm not saying you can't ever promote your podcast in email, but what most people do with their list is they literally just treat it like, hey, I'm going to take this from here. I'm just going to put it here. Go watch my YouTube video. Go listen to my podcast. Check out this new thing I'm doing. It's always about you. And what I want everybody to think about is, instead of doing that, send one high value email that could potentially be a standalone blog style. Like it's so in depth that it could be something you posted on your website. And let it stand alone. Let it be something that they can't get anywhere else. If I love you so much and you give me such value and your email is something I can't find somewhere else, I'll keep reading your emails. But if I know that like it's just your podcast and I can go listen to your podcast, I prefer to listen to a podcast. So I'm going to go listen to your podcast. So instead of just regurgitating your content from other places, create something that you can only get in the email. And then make it exciting. Like the way you would market your podcast. People do this all the time. They market their podcast. They market their YouTube videos. People don't market their newsletter. Like, hey, I give you my best stuff. I can tell you if you're on my email list, you get some of my best stuff. I'm going to break down social media posts for you. I did one on pitching yourself on podcasts, and I told you exactly why I don't choose people for our podcast. No secrets. told you all in the email. You can't get it anywhere else. You're not going to find it in another place. So if you want that information, you've got to be on my list. And all you got to give me for that is an email. I don't need your money yet, but I'm going to talk to you about how to monetize it. So when you think about scheduling out your content and all these things, we always think about what reel is going up on Instagram. What are we putting on LinkedIn? How are we using this? And then emails like this afterthought. We'll just send it to the list so more people get there. I want to challenge you to think differently about what you're sending to the list and say, is this worth staying on my list for? Is this something that somebody can only get on my list? And listen, if you write an email and you're like, dang, that was just a really good topic, I want to record a podcast on it or a YouTube video, that's totally fine. But in its form, that should be novel and unique and something I can't get anywhere else. So we do this once a week for clients and once a week for us. And we have lists from 400 to 50,000. One topic, we teach on it. Like I could do actually I did one on newsletters, like an entire newsletter just about newsletters. Here's everything you need to know and just break it down as though I was teaching on a video. And that's all we send 80% of the time. One time a week, one in-depth newsletter. That's it. Then when we have something we're launching or something we're selling, we might send a couple of sales emails in between. And guess what? My open rates don't go down. My click-through rates don't go down, and I don't lose subscribers because I don't do it all the time. Most of the time, my content's super high value. Sometimes I send you a sales email, but you're not going to be mad about it because you love the rest of the stuff and you're not going to get off the list. So one time a week, one in-depth topic. Now, for some of you, that's like, oh, I could easily do that. Like I have topics, I can think of a million. For some of you, you're like, I'm in insurance. Like, what am I going to talk about? So some of you are going to have to get a little creative into thinking about the same way you would if you were shooting an Instagram video or you were writing a LinkedIn post. We all know that you find that insurance agent who's just posting from the company, right? They're just the main company, they're just taking what they're posting from there. And then there's the guy on Instagram or TikTok or LinkedIn who's like, hey, here's why you need this certain type of life insurance that nobody tells you about. Here's what you need to know in order to protect your family. And they teach you something valuable, right? So we got the guy who's posting the stuff from the company that's just sort of that like corporate vibe, really boring. And then we got the guy who's breaking it down and he's like, hey, this is actually what you need to know. This is how you make this decision for your family. And here's some interesting information that you might not have even realized. And who do we like better? We like the guy who does that. Your email is the same. You can take the corporate stuff from blogs, send that out. How many people read that? How many of y'all have read one of those? Like, I've never, like never. But break it down. Give me the Cliff's Notes version. You could take something that seems as complicated or whatever tactical as insurance and say, hey, here's 5 things you need to know that are costing you money in the long run. Because guess what? I would pay attention to that, especially if I'm in a season where I'm making a decision about that type of thing. So any industry can do this. Obviously, if you're in like a coaching space, it's much easier. If you're in like a marketing, that type of thing, it's obviously easier. If you're a realtor, like how do you do this if you're a realtor? Realtors, I love y'all, but unless I'm buying a house in your city, your local listings aren't that helpful to me. However, tell me what's going on in your city. Do something on a local event. Tell me how the heck I'm going to buy a freaking new house and not pay 7% interest. Like, give me some info. Like, walk me through all realtors are like, oh, you need pre-approval before you go find. I know that. I don't need that information. Like, give me something different. How do I find houses on the market that are underpriced and not overpriced? Like, the insider stuff, that's what you want to put in your newsletter. Go ahead, Devin. Do you have a question?
I just wanted to elaborate. So I seen you post and this is just an example, guys, like she'll promote her newsletter on her social page. So hey, this week in my newsletter, I'm going to be breaking down this and giving you this, yep. Right? And that's a big deal because what does that do? Somebody asked me actually from the Deep Roots, like, how do I build an email list? And I was like, dude, well, one, get on the call tomorrow because we're going to be talking about that. But that's another way. Like some of you have hundreds of friends, if not thousands of friends on Facebook, and then you combine LinkedIn, then you combine Instagram. I mean, if you put some type of post like that, whatever your niche is, you could easily get, I don't know, maybe 5 to 10 opt-ins a day,
Yep.
right? And 5 to 10 opt-ins a day
That's
for,
it.
for a week, that's 50 new people that you can plant seeds in every single week. And then you do that then that's 200 at the end of the month if you just did Monday through Friday, right? 200 people that you can drip real value to with whatever niche it is. That's a powerful thing. And that's a huge opportunity for referrals right through replies in your inbox. So I just want to say I've seen you actually do it. It stimulates interest and it gets people to want to jump. So,
and y'all, it's so unimpressive. Like you go look at my feed, like it's literally like tomorrow on my, in my newsletter, I'm breaking down how to pitch yourself to a podcast and all the mistakes people make. Like that's it. It's like one of those color backgrounds. It's not even got a picture, no graphic. It's just that. I also on LinkedIn will sometimes write a regular caption and put it in the first comment. Hey, if you like this and want more information, about marketing and personal branding, I send out an in-depth email every week, sign up for it. So I do that as well. And then obviously you can always run ads to things like that if you wanted to really grow it quickly, but I bet all of you could grow it organically, really, really well. And I can go through some more, how to grow the list. But you got to start with something valuable first. So one in-depth topic every week, make it interesting, make it novel that they can't get it anywhere else, and stay consistent. I write for 2 different of our companies. I like to break up my content. I like to use GIFs so that it's very like visually not a lot, because when people see a lot of text, they sort of tune it out. So you can do that. You can use photos. You can use bullet points. Be really mindful of, because you're writing a lot and you're putting some valuable stuff in there, you have the burden of expertise in your industry, which means to you, things that people not in your industry don't know. You know them in depth and you can get a little geeky about them. We all can. So you are like, oh, well, this mortgage thing, and you go deep into this thing and it's very tactical and overwhelming for someone who doesn't ever want to be in mortgage. They just want to get a new house, right? So you have to remember that your level of depth and expertise does not need to all be thrown in one email. Everything you've learned for the last 10 years does not need to be put in one email. You need to think about what are the most important, relevant things for someone to know, and how can I say that in a way that a 12-year-old would understand it, not because they're not smart, but because they're not paying attention. And so how can I make it so simple that they understand it, but also that they realize I know what I'm talking about? Because your whole point behind this is to position yourself as someone who knows what you're doing. If you're the one who's explaining, here's how to reduce your mortgage percentage by 2%, guess which mortgage broker I'm choosing? The one who's going to save me thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, because I trust that you know your stuff. So you want to make sure that the way you're teaching things is going to position you as an authority. So what I did one on podcast pitches, and I am the person. We have our CEO has a top ranked. It was #1 podcast. It's called The Kelly Roach. So if you want to go listen to it, but I'm the one who says yes or no to guests on her show. So I get all kinds of pitches all the time. 90% of them I don't even open. I don't even open them. And 10% of them I open, and I probably accept like 2. We actually stopped taking guests because I was like, I'm tired of everybody. So we're going to start again. But I basically broke down an email, like, here's an insider's view. Like, I'm at a top podcast. If you want to get in, here's what you need to know. Well, guess what? We offer podcast services. Like, we'll pitch you to shows. So just that one little line in my email positions me as someone who's an insider who knows. So if you work with us, you get this insider stuff. Does that make sense? I don't need to talk about how amazing I am. I could just be like, hey, I do this every day for our company. Here's what I know. So in your email, you want to position yourself as the person that is the go-to. Kevin, question? Okay.
Thanks for coming on this morning. Appreciate it. So I just had a couple of questions. So one thing you mentioned about staying consistent basically with your marketing approach and creating content that is sort of exclusive to the newsletter.
Mhm.
For folks who are in regulated industries like finance or law, I'm an attorney. Don't hold that against me, but I am.
And I work with one. I love him.
So, how do you balance that exclusivity of the content,
Mhm.
selling this, the soup recipes? How do
Yeah.
you?
So there's, and each regulated industry is a little different in how you can do that. So like, I know that you can't give legal advice and you have to have a little disclaimer. This is not legal advice. But one of the things you can do, there's a couple of lawyers who do this actually on like TikTok or Instagram, where they break down current cases, right? And they're just giving an analysis of a case. Now, you might not be able to say, Danielle, this is how this applies to you in your email, but you can say, hey, here's a new piece of legislation that just passed. Here's what you need to know about it. And then you break down what that is. So you're not giving me legal advice. You're just saying, you need to know this information. What kind of lawyer are you?
A real estate attorney.
Okay. So, wow, there's a lot of real estate law stuff that trips people up, right? So what are the things that people might be making mistakes about, that they're not specific mistakes, but they're general, they're overarching? Like, hey, did you know, when you die, this is what happens to your house when you die. Do you have a plan for this? Here are 4 possible options. So
Yeah,
again, giving
here's
me
your
legal
number.
advice, you're just saying,
Okay.
this is general. Does that, and you can still go in depth on those topics without being directive.
So are there sort of, and it doesn't have to be real estate specific, but one thing I notice in particularly real estate marketing, you mentioned being sort of a local guy, like drawing to local events. So many people call themselves a local expert and don't have a friggin' idea what's going on in town. So that's like a buzzword it's like painful to read at times. Are there other buzzwords generally, whether you're in law or finance or you sell cars or you shine shoes, whatever the case may be, buzzwords that you would say people should avoid in their newsletters? And then
No,
I
I
appreciate.
don't think you need to avoid. I feel like what the beauty of a newsletter is, you can give as much context as you want. So I would do a whole newsletter about what it means to be a local expert and why most people aren't. And I would call them out. Like, you get to frame up the context of it. Now, what I think most realtors, mortgage people, maybe real estate lawyers, anyone local like that misses is, I actually don't care that you know a lot about the city if I'm buying a house. I care that you're going to get me the best deal. You knowing where to find the best deal is part of knowing the city, right? So you telling me the best restaurants is fine, but you being able to say, hey, I was just at this event with the head of such and such. Here's what went on. Here's why it matters to you, because now I have a connection that 10 other realtors don't have. I just care that you're going to get me the best deal and that you're going to be honest and look out for me. I don't really care that you can tell me about where to go to dinner. Like, I can go to y'all. So I think sometimes that local thing is really taken the wrong way. You want to position yourself as someone who has inside information in your town. You have connections. We're looking at buying land in our city, and we called one guy for this one thing that we saw online. He had like 5 things that weren't listed yet. He's like, let me call them for you. That's super valuable, because I couldn't find them on Zillow. So you being that guy is what I need to know, not that you know the best restaurant. So does that make sense? What
No,
you need
it
to think
does.
about is what's the greatest need for, and this is for all marketing, not just your emails. This is your social media. This is everything. Most people just talk about informational things that they think are important that nobody cares about. You need to talk about the things that will help position you as the only person who can get the job done, or the best person that can get the job done. So what I care about as the consumer is very different than what you think is important as the expert. So you kind of want to make sure you're steering clear of those things. Does that mean you can't highlight a local restaurant? Highlight a local restaurant. It's fine. Like, especially if they're going to reshare your content and put it somewhere and make you the recommended person. But do that really wisely. Like it's like my whole thing with marketing in terms of content on social media, content in your newsletter, content in your YouTube, content in your podcast is, what's the relevance for your buyer? If it's not relevant to your buyer, it could be awesome information, but it doesn't matter because people don't buy things that are not relevant to them. So you could be selling the most beautiful house in New Jersey and I will never buy it because I grew up in New York and I will never buy a house in New Jersey. It could be, you could be a shark. You could be a beast. You could be the best of the best of the best. And it doesn't matter to me because I'm not going to buy a house in New Jersey. It's not relevant to me. But I am trying to buy land in South Carolina downtown, which is nearly freaking impossible. So if you know that stuff, I will pay attention to all of your things. Why? Because right now it's relevant to me. 2 years ago, it was not relevant to me. But right now it's relevant to me. And so you have to think about, what am I creating that's relevant? That's your newsletter, your social media, that's everything you create. Okay, more questions about that? I'm going to go on to a couple like other tactical things with emails.
Yeah, what we'll do is we'll write down, just so you don't get thrown off, just write down your questions, guys, and then towards the end we'll do a Q&A real quick.
Perfect. A couple of things to keep in mind. Your subject line will make or break you. So I'm going to give you some do's and don'ts with writing a subject line. Just a couple of standards so everybody knows. This is general across industries. I know we've got a lot of industries here, so I'm going to give you kind of an average. Some industries are going to be higher, some are lower, but you want an open rate around 20% on a list that's over 10,000. Under 10,000, you should have a higher open rate, 30, 40%. I like a 50%. I feel like it's not good if it's not 50%. So 20% average with a list over 10K. Click-through rate. So that means you have a link in your email and people click on it. That's usually around 1%. 1% click-through rate. Now, if you're offering something that's free, you're talking about something that they don't have to pay for, you'll probably get a higher click-through rate, or hopefully you will get a higher click-through rate. If it's a direct purchase, you might get a little bit lower, but I like to aim for 2% click-through rate and 50% open rate. That's where I like to hang out. Learning to write a great subject line. I hate literally everything people teach about this because it's so spammy. So, I'm going to teach you the anti-spammy way to write subject lines. People really overthink this, but again, 80% of marketing that converts is about relevance. So, for example, I would not have opened an email from a realtor 2 years ago. I just wasn't looking. Like, it was not relevant. It didn't matter how awesome your subject line, how cool and clever and fancy. It was completely irrelevant to me. We moved 2 years ago from Nashville to Tennessee. So guess what all of a sudden became relevant? Real estate. I needed a house. Now I want to buy it where we want to move downtown and build a custom house, which is hard because there's not a lot of land here. So I'm all over that. Every email I get, I open it because it's super relevant right now and it's timely. I could miss stuff, right? Like if I'm not opening it, like I could miss something. So what you need to think about is you're constantly in this cycle of people who are ideal clients. They're perfect, but right now it's not a need, right? Maybe I already have a life insurance policy and it's not up for another 5 years. I'm not thinking about that every day. Like you know how often I think about that? Like never, until the insurance agent's like, it's time to renew or whatever. Then I think about it. This is not something that I wake up in the morning and go, oh my gosh, I need to do this, until it's something I need to do. So you have to consider, are you constantly filling your email list, your social media with people who aren't ready yet, but you can stay in front of them so that when they are ready, they remember you. Now, if they're ready, if they're in that, 3 to 5%, that's like, it's super relevant to them at that moment, then you can do a really simple email subject line. Like, how to save 1% on your mortgage. You know why? Because it's relevant to them and they care about that. And you don't have to be all weird and spammy and slimy. You could just say what you're going to tell them. So the first way that I like to write a subject line is literally just Like, what's the value inside? So for me, for that podcast one, I think the subject line I used was something like, how to actually get your podcast pitch accepted from someone who's done it hundreds of times or something like that. It was very like, here's what you're going to get inside. I love a great subject line that's just what's inside. Okay. Second thing is understanding how to use an open loop. Now, this can be spammy, but it doesn't have to be spammy. If you've got content and maybe your open rates are lower, or maybe you're like, okay, Danielle, 3 to 5%, it's relevant right now, but I want to capture the attention of more than that, then you might use something called an open loop. And an open loop is basically just you start it, but you don't close it. So you'll never believe what happened, ... And then you open the email and tell me a story. Or I couldn't believe he walked in my room and said that, ... And then I have to open the email to see it. It could be, are you making this common email marketing mistake? And then you're left wondering, I don't know, am I making that mistake? Maybe, and I'm going to open the email. So an open loop starts a question or opens something in someone's mind and doesn't resolve it until they open. Think of like every cliffhanger on a show before a commercial, where like the person's just about to kill the other person, and then it goes to a commercial and you're like, what happened? And so that's what you want to do. You want to make it to where they're like, wait, hold on, what? And then they have to open the email. Just be careful with this, that it actually gets resolved in the email. Where people do this wrong and it ends up being super spammy is they use a subject line like that, and then it has nothing to do with the email. And then people are pissed off. They're like, why? That was annoying. So just make sure that whatever you put in your subject line, that you're actually going to resolve it in your email. So just a straight value proposition, an open loop. If you can ever use an emoji in your subject line, visually, it just stands out to people because they get nothing but text. Don't overuse it. But when you can put just one emoji, you don't have to be crazy, in a subject line, it visually sticks out. And so people are more likely to open it. So I like to use that. I use probably once or twice a month with our newsletters. Usually like if you're making more money, or how not to suck at email marketing. I've written subject lines like that, how to not suck at, and then I have like the little poop emoji and whatever it is they're not sucking at. Those are simple ways to stand out, just by throwing one emoji in there. Make sure a couple things to be careful of with subject lines. Most of you should have email service providers that allow you to split test. Do y'all know what split testing is? This is different depending on like what you use for your email. But it's basically, you can choose 2 subject lines. It'll send it to a portion of your list. It sends both emails out. It'll say, like, it's usually over a period of time, maybe 3 to 4 hours. It'll say, oh, this one won. And then it sends that one to the rest of your list. A lot of people do this and then they don't pay attention later. What I want all of y'all to do, at least 2 emails per month where you're split testing your subject line. And then after, I want you to look at it and say, which ones won and why do I think they won? Most people never go back and say, they just they do the split test, they send it off, and then they're like, okay, good, done. But that tells you what you should do next time for your email list. So understanding how to go back and analyze, okay, why did that work? Was it the topic? Was it the way I worded it? Was it just the timeliness of this thing? You need to start analyzing those things. So split testing your subject lines, going back and analyzing. The other type of subject line that I like to use, and this, you have to use it really carefully, but I'll just put in parentheses, important info inside. And then typically we'll use that for something like we have a masterclass in one of our companies that we're going to sell into a mentorship program. So I use that for the first email that's got like the Zoom link, the ad event link, the time, like it's got all the information, like join the Facebook group. It's the thing that I like, if you only open one email, I want it to be this one, I'll use it for that. So if you're someone who maybe you send like once a month, you send out packages or something that you're offering, that might be an important info inside email. or important info inside, save this. I've used that as a subject line. Again, not all the time, because if you send that all the time, they're going to learn. But just for things that I'm like, this one is one I really want people to open. Once you've done that, how we have monetized our email, and we do it every week, at the bottom of our newsletter, and I'll show you some links to ours. I just list out ways to work with us. And so for our agency, we have, like, I can't take all clients at all the time, because it's like we have to have account managers. So I'll look at our spots and say, like, okay, this month or this week, I can take 2 people who want LinkedIn management and 1 podcast, right? So at the bottom of my email, I do my full email, like everything. It's basically like going to marketing school. And then at the very bottom, I say, hey, if you're looking for done for you services, these are spots we have available in our agency. And then I just list it out. I put my pricing in there because I don't want you booking a call if you can't afford it. And I literally just tell you, this is what it includes. So I might, depending on the week, I might have 4 things listed out. I might have 1 thing listed out. I'm just going to take whatever we have available and say, this is how you can work with us further. For our CEO's newsletter, sometimes we just promote her podcast. Sometimes we do nothing else. She just wants to grow the podcast. So sometimes at the bottom, my sale is like, hey, have you checked out the Kelly Roach Show? If not, these are the 3 episodes that were released recently. Go check them out. Now, right now, we're going into like a launch. So for the last 3 weeks, we've done nothing but invite people to the masterclass. And that's the sale at the end of that email. So you can use that a million different ways. Maybe you're someone who does something very custom, like insurance, where you'd have to get someone on the phone, or real estate or whatever. You've got to talk to someone. I would just put a little blurb at the bottom. Hey, if you're looking to get a better rate on your insurance so that you can have more impact later on, let's book a call and chat. I've been able to say, this is how I would say it. I've been able to save clients on average $100 a month on their premiums.
Could you imagine
There's some value.
a call to action with like a Calendly link at the bottom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that like something people, so could you imagine weekly sending out an email and just sitting there and be like, watching, thinking it out, right? Not being lazy with your content, but thinking it out. You give enough value, and at the bottom, hey, schedule a free consultation here. Here goes my whatever. And then bang, you get like 5 requests, like each week, because you implemented what we're talking about here. And remember, you got to make it so easy for people.
Yeah,
right?
I'm going to show you mine last one so you can see how easy it is. Here's the deal. If you're always building your list and you're always giving them value, you'll always have someone new who's in that percent where it's relevant and they're ready. What happens is people stop building their list and they keep selling the same thing, and there's just not enough leads. It's just basic sales. You need to have a healthy pipeline so that there's always somebody ready to buy. Same thing with your email marketing, right? Like, you have to do the work to get people on the list so that you always have somebody who's going to want to click that link. Here's my most recent one. You can see.
I allowed screen share, and I think I did anyway.
Oh, I just put the link in here, but I can pull that up. Hang on. I'm so bad at like Zoom stuff. All right. I like GIFs, so don't judge. You don't have to do this in yours. I like my emails to be a party. So I was teaching here podcast growth strategies that no one talks about. I literally list them out, and I have a totally different approach to social media than most people. Podcast guesting, paid strategies. No one talks about paid strategies for podcast growth, FYI. So I was like, let me tell you about those. Literally walk you through the whole thing. This is like a little mini class. And then at the bottom, here's what we've got. We're taking 3 clients who want to grow their podcast. I happen to have space for this specific thing. Now, I will tell you, sometimes what I put at the bottom is completely unrelated. Sometimes I put here, we have room for 3 LinkedIn clients. So LinkedIn has nothing to do with what I talked about in here. It's just what we have available in spaces for our agency. So I don't always make it super related. It's just, here you go. And it's the same booking link. I put my pricing, it's super clear, 1 line, here's what you get. But you don't have to do any of that. You just got so much value just from reading this that you don't have to do it. And you know what? There's a lot of people who won't do it now, but in 2 months, they're going to book something because they're just not ready now. And then one day they're gonna be like, I'm ready. And they'll have read all my emails and they'll sign up. So just to keep that in mind, this one of the services happened to be related. Sometimes what I put as my offer is completely unrelated to the topic I talked about. And sometimes they match. So it doesn't always have to be the same. I have some too. Let me show you another version where it's like, literally I'll like just put a line and then I'll, here. Oh, here, let's do email marketing mistakes since that's what we're talking about. Let me see if this has that. Yeah, here's another version of it. You can see the link in the comments. At the bottom, if you scroll down, this was actually something where I did like a specific, like kind of group program. So it wasn't even an agency service. So there's a bunch of different ways to do these. If you have like just one service, you could just put that there. Like our CEO, it's usually just that one thing. Our agency, like I said, we just have to take people for different things based on the space I have with my account managers. So it's kind of like I'm always promoting like a different angle. But you might always just have one thing and that's totally fine. You could always put it there. So you don't have to overthink that, but just make sure that there's a clear value of what they're going to get and that you're telling them, hey, this is what you're signing up for. And you can see in this second email, it's a direct link to buy something. So I've done it both ways where they book a call and they just sign up. So if you've got a lower ticket or something that's direct to purchase, you can do that. The most important thing to remember is basically you decide whether people are going to hate your emails or consume them. You decide whether you're going to make sales from them or not. You decide whether it's going to be basic or whether it's going to be like something somebody looks forward to. And you can do an awesome job with it and make money from it, or you can just phone it in, say you have an email list and then have like some of you had like 20, 30,000 people. Like, if you're not making money every week from 20, 30,000 people, you got to fix it. That's like 20, 30,000 leads sitting in your thing. Like, of course, they're not all qualified. Of course, they're not all ready, but 3 to 5% are. Be so good that they have to book a call with you. Like they're already bought in enough to say, yes, I want that. So there's obviously a lot more, but I feel like if everyone did this one thing and they did it consistently, that you would be so amazed. When you look at growing your newsletter, obviously just posting about it consistently. I put it again, sometimes in the comments of my regular posts that have nothing to do with the newsletter. I put it in my LinkedIn bio. We send welcome messages. This is something that a lot of people don't do. We send welcome messages to all of our new followers on social. So if you follow me or connect with me, at some point, I'm going to say like, hey, thanks so much for connecting. Same with our agency. And one of the things we'll say is, hey, did you know we have a weekly newsletter where we break down, these marketing topics? And I'll actually send a link like the ones I put in the chat, like a sample, so people can see it and say, hey, if you want more like this, here's the link to sign up. So anyone who's new to my social, I try to get them on there. So those are a couple ways to work. And then obviously you can run ads. Ads are great. If you're already getting people on your list organically, putting just a little bit of ad spend, $1,000 a month will do wonders to grow it quickly. So.
Got it. This is all great stuff. Jason, I know you had a question yesterday that you messaged me. So you want to unmute and ask Danielle what your question was, and obviously tell her what your company is too.
Hey, what's up, Danielle? I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
So I was talking to Devin yesterday, and I own a landscaping and contracting company. And I have a list. I use Keep.
Okay.
Used to be Infusionsoft, and then so we've been doing that for probably 5 or 6 years or whatever. But it works well. I know I do use it quite often, but I don't use it enough. I have customers that come in every single year, and I add on to my list. I probably have about 3,000 customers just from like turnover. But um, I was curious to know, like, how do you like grow a specific email list? Like, what are some of the strategies on growing a list? Like, I want like 100,000 customers because, like, I think part of the reason why I don't um send out more emails is because I'm like, it's just 3,000 people. It's not really as big. I know that's stupid, but I'm just saying, like, how do you grow like a bigger list?
Well, number one, 3,000 people is a crap ton of people, especially for a local business and servicing.
Yeah.
But, okay, so there's a couple things I would do. I would just think about your topics for the next couple of weeks and I would post them every week on your social. Like literally, I would say, I'm writing a newsletter. You're going to see my complete ignorance for anything landscaping. So just bear with me.
Mhm.
On the 3 ways to get rid of weeds naturally. I'm just making something up. And I'm going to send that out on Saturday morning. If you want to get that, it's in depth. Going to walk you through my top 3 products to get rid of it, whatever. Post it on your social. When new followers come to your social media, say, hey, you know, I have a newsletter where I talk to you all about landscaping things. I don't know, landscaping things. Sign up for it. Now you could create some sort of lead magnet. What type do you do? Like architecture, like landscape architecture? Or is
Yeah,
it
we
like,
do like, I mean, we do everything, but we do a lot of like custom landscape design work and backyard renovation pools and stuff like that.
what's something that a lot of people call you and ask about?
Uh, I mean, we get tons of maintenance, but like the main push, like, so I've always tried to like focus around like our custom work, a lot of like our high end stuff to like get those customers because ultimately they're the jobs you want. So, but we do like we'll send out maintenance things, and where we get a lot of feedback is like the regular services that come around like seasonally. Like for example, this is like a silly one, but it's just basically like irrigation, winterization or whatever, a shutdown and winterization. I get when I send that out every year, I send it out and I have like a sign up link on it. I get probably 10 or 15 customers that'll sign up for like an irrigation blowout or whatever, just because it's easy, they know they need it, and I make it easy for them.
So what I would do with that is I would think about like one for every season and create a PDF, like 3 things that you don't know you need for winter to save your irrigation system or something.
Right. Yeah.
Make that a lead magnet and just promote that. They have to give you your email to get on the list, and then you can
Mhm.
send services you want to.
What you so like creating a lead magnet on like Facebook, you're saying?
Yeah, so I would make that, like I would make a PDF, right? Maybe how to save thousands of dollars on your water bill during the summer, right? Like I live in South Carolina, our water bill goes up like by a jillion in the summer because of our irrigation, right? Because the
Right.
sprinklers go on and all that stuff. If you could tell me 3 ways to save money on that in a 1-page PDF that I downloaded, I would give you my email.
Hmm.
I would send that to my husband. So what you want to do is those things like, okay, this winter irrigation thing, what do people need to know about that? Do people even understand what that means?
Right.
Okay. So if they don't, make me a 1-page info sheet and say, hey, Danielle, download this by giving me your email.
Gotcha.
That makes sense. So I would think of one for every season, maybe, or maybe every line of service that you provide. Like, what's the question people ask about that? So maybe for your custom stuff, it's like 3 custom design mistakes people make when building out their yard.
Right. Right.
A 1-page PDF.
So you can actually like post on social media, you can post a PDF and then have
So you would have a form. They would literally like, what email provider do you use?
Google. Google.
Like you send out like all your emails through Google.
Yeah.
Like if you were sending an email to 3,000 people, how would you send it?
CRM. What's CRM?
The Keep.
Oh,
Keep.
that's right.
It's
Okay.
the
So
Infusionsoft.
inside of Keep, there's a form. You would create a form and then you would promote that on your social media. And then
Okay.
I would go to the form, put my name in, And then you have my email, and the first email you send would have whatever it is I just signed up for.
Right.
So you would
Yeah.
make the form inside of Keep, then you would have the automation inside of Keep, and then you would promote that link or that resource everywhere else.
Okay.
And
Gotcha.
if it did really well organically, I'm a big fan of it. If it does well organically, put some money behind it and spend on ads.
Yeah, that's true too. I didn't really, yeah. So I never really, so that's one thing I don't really do too much is like link those two things together. Like my customer list on Keep is completely different. Well, not completely different, but it's not like hand in hand with my Facebook and all my social media followers. So
Listen, whatever you want to drive, that's what you need to post about. I say this all the time. You want to drive podcast growth, drive podcasts. You want to drive YouTube growth, drive YouTube. You want emails on your list, you got to talk about it. And people used to be 17 to 21 times. Now it's up to 41 times. But someone needs to see something before they'll take action.
Wow.
They did some research with like ads, how many times somebody needs to see an ad before they click on it. And it's up to 40 something times.
that's crazy.
So just keep that in mind. We think like nobody wants my thing. Nobody saw your thing. Like you're going to need to post it like 100 times for people to
keep on posting it. And then, so is there like on like to kind of go back to the same thing, but just like a different version of it? Is there like is there a way, like obviously that's like organic, you're going to get the best customers through that, but is there a way to have like, just get like mass customer list, like without, I mean, I guess you can buy it, but like, is there any like programs that you can get email lists from or like leads like that?
You can buy them. You just have to be really careful. I mean, number one, there's some weird data laws that they keep coming out. Like with that, I feel like eventually these lists that you can buy are going to be illegal, just FYI. Right now, there's so many laws. Like California has one that like 7 or 8 states just passed for websites. And so you have to be really careful with buying lists. But my thing with buying lists is like half the emails end up being crappy.
Yeah.
Like you buy a list of 1,000 and you might get 500 good ones. So
Like how do those people, like, I mean, everybody gets emails, I don't know, 10, 20 a day, where they're like, some of them are related to like my type industry. Like, how did they get my email? You know what I mean? Did they buy my email or did they?
Yeah, somebody sold it to them. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's companies that do that, but how many of those people do you do business with?
Right. I mean, I click on a decent amount of them, I'm not gonna lie.
But do you give them your money? If they
No,
got
I just read
signed
them
up
and
for
then,
something,
yeah.
if you didn't sign up for something, if you're looking for like competitor research, you'll be like, let me check that out. But if you were a customer and somebody just scraped your email, it's different than a cold email where you're doing one-to-one outreach with someone and you're saying like, hey, Devin, I see you do this. This is who I am. That's like a one-to-one cold outreach versus buying lists. You can buy lists. I know lots of businesses do this. For me, I would rather just grow my social media business that way. You can absolutely buy lists. Instead of buying that list, I would rather use the money for ads and have people willingly log in. So like, I can take $1,000, $1,500 and run ads to build my email list. And they are actually opting in, like they want to use this. So it's not like lots of people do it and they grow, especially if you're local and you need like a specific area. But I would just rather do it the other way because then you want to be on my list. You're more likely to open it. You're more likely to buy from me.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Appreciate it.
Danielle, thank you so much. This is all valuable information, all money-making information. Remember this, guys. Follow Danielle. Danielle, I do have one quick question. What is the most mobile-friendly like CRM? Like, I would rather not have to be on desktop. Like, is there one that I can do right from my phone, add a picture, add emojis, and bang, hit a tag list, or they haven't made it? They haven't made a CRM mobile friendly enough to operate that way.
I hate doing stuff on my phone, so I'm probably the worst person to ask that to. CRMs I would choose based on ease of use. So the ones that I think are easiest to use are like ConvertKit, ActiveCampaign. We use Go High Level, which I'll be honest, pros and cons, I'm sort of on the fence, but it's one of those like all encompassing systems. like to me, Keep is really hard. Like there's a lot of stuff in there. I'm like, geez, this is a lot. MailChimp is like really basic. So like Active Campaign, ConvertKit, I don't know a ton about Constant Contact, but they have a little bit more functionality. In terms of what you can do on mobile, they're all going to say you could do it on mobile.
Yeah.
I don't think any of it's easy on mobile.
Got it.
I don't think anybody's there yet. For me, I have to do all of this on my laptop, but everybody's different. So I would still go with one of those, and test it out on mobile. But in terms of like, is there an app for that? No one's got something great that I think.
There you go, Devin. That's your next move.
You should make one. Yeah, please. Cause I freaking hate like,
If I don't beat you to it first.
oh, I'll promote it.
All right, guys. Well, Danielle, again, thank you so much. Guys, follow Danielle, support Danielle, share the call. That will also support Danielle. And remember, guys, you can thank Danielle by implementing this stuff, right? That's how you do it. Don't just sit on this information, start taking action. Maybe send out an email this week, post it in the community. Hey, I took action. I sent out an email this week and I changed my subject line. What do you guys think? Right? That's what it's about, execution, guys. So thank you so much. Reminder, September, this Thursday, we have Burlington Country Club meetup from 5 to 7. So please come out, see your Harvest members. Burlington Country Club tomorrow. All right. So it is tomorrow. It's getting closer. So Danielle, thank you so much. Have an amazing week. And guys, follow Danielle again. Remember, that's just a reminder. And have an amazing day, guys. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye, everyone.